Good evening. Welcome to the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club Monday Evening TechNet. This is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo. My name is Jim. I'll be net control for this evening's TechNet. Looking for check-ins. Anyone wanting to check in to tonight's TechNet, please call now.
This is Kilo Echo 0 Lima Charlie Kilo, the other Mike from Windsor.
Good evening, Mike. How are you doing this evening?
Well, I've had to adjust my work routine. I get something done in the morning, and in the afternoon it's too hot. So I just kind of take it easy. But then again, I'm retired, so I always take it easy.
The advantages of not having to do anything if you don't want to. Looking for check-ins. Anyone else wanting to check in for this evening's TechNet? Please call now. Sounded like someone was in there, was not making the repeater. Got a lot of static with a real faint voice in the background. Try again.
Might have been me, K1DEG.
I believe it was. It sounded like your voice in the background, but there was too much static to really make it out. Good evening. How you doing this evening, Mike? Sure.
Well, I'm doing all right. We were just out here watching the rain and got a picture of the double rainbow, and that's about it. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, it looked like the big parts of the storm were breaking up before it made it out your way in Platteville.
Yeah, but I still seen them crosshairs. I mean, I knew it was getting close. K1DEG.
Yeah, definitely. It skirted my house in Loveland here, but everything stayed south of me. Good. Anyone wanting to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call.
Alpha Echo 0 Charlie Foxtrot, Ben, in near Longmont today. Mobile.
Evening, Ben. How are you doing?
Alright, just getting back from a visit with a friend stopping by town.
Sounds like fun. Missed the storms down there. Anyone else wanting to check in, please call now.
This is Alpha Echo 0 Golf Mike, George and Berthic.
Evening, George. How you doing this evening? You guys get any of the bad hail in that area?
No, we lucked out. We got some lightning and heavy rain, but no hail.
Yeah, definitely lucked out. Looked like from the way the storm was tracking, it was going straight for Berthoud. This is KA6ETE looking for check-ins for tonight's TechNet. Anyone want to check in? Call now.
0 Echo Victor.
November 0 Echo Mike Papa, Greg in Fort Collins with Debbie, K0 TPE.
Whiskey 2, Mike India Charlie, Mark in Loveland.
Evening, Greg, Debbie, and Mark. Sound like there was someone just before you, Greg. I did not catch the call sign. If they can come back. I couldn't tell if someone was trying to get into the repeater there or not. But, looking for check-ins. Anyone wanting to check in tonight's TechNet, please call now.
November 0 Tango Quebec, Mike from Pierce.
How you doing this evening, Mike? I believe that was you before Greg that tried checking in. Was that you?
No, it was not me, but I'm doing well on my way home from work, so that's a good thing.
Always a good thing to be on your way home at the end of the day. This is KA6ETE, net control for this evening's NCARC TechNet, looking for check-ins. Anyone wanting to check in to tonight's TechNet, please call now.
Kilo 0, Echo Victor.
E0 Alpha Sierra Papa, Terry in Berthoud.
K0EV and Terry. Anyone else wanting to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call now. Yeah, hear nothing, we'll move on. Yeah, we will take check-ins anytime during the net, only late check-ins. Or any questions? Anyone have any questions they would like to ask TechNet this evening? Call now. And I hear nothing. I'll bring up a question that was asked. I've heard multiple times over the weekend. I know we just had a test session on Saturday, and had one guy ask me there, or reach out to me after that, and then a couple other people over the weekend about deciding what to get first, HT or mobile radio, and what should they get as far as for out in the mountain use, stuff that would not be around town. I know a couple people were going to be listening this evening that don't have their call signs yet, so it'll be a good opportunity for them to listen in. Anyone have any suggestions on what they feel would be beneficial and better for a first-time radio if it's primarily if you're out in the mountains away from the Front Range area? LCK, Mike, go ahead.
Jim, thanks for taking that this evening. There's a couple ways you can go on this. I'll take one way and somebody else can go the other. If you're starting out and you had a mobile radio, you can get a power supply for it and use it at home inside. I am still using my Yaesu 857 as my base station. You can use it at home and use it in your vehicle. And with the better antennas, I'd say you have a much better chance of getting somewhere with that and a little more power than you would have with an HT. But that's just my opinion. Next person, please.
Yeah, thanks. thanks for that, Mike. You can definitely go both ways. There's benefits of having an HT and benefits of a mobile. The extra power. Anyone have anything they want to add to it?
W2MIC.
Mark, go ahead.
I can champion both approaches since I have used both. Initially, I spent 20 years using a 5-watt handheld, a Yaesu FT50, and then a Yaesu FT60 with a Super Gainer 7900 antenna, and I found that 5 watts would get me anywhere, including Denver and Pikes Peak, plus every place around here. That worked very well. The downside, well, and the great part is, of course, that you have only one radio. So you're accustomed to operating it. You know which channel is which repeater, etc. The downside is, of course, if it is raining cats and dogs, rain soaks up UHF signal, and you really want a 50-watt mobile to get through the rain if you're out doing weather spotting, chasing tornadoes, or whatever. The good news is, if you start with a handheld and a good mobile antenna, when you eventually add a mobile radio, as I got a Kenwood V71, that antenna and that radio work super well for everything. I am currently using my Kenwood V71 50-watt mobile as my home base station with a rooftop antenna, and it works extremely well for that. I really like the idea of first buying a handheld and then buying a 12-volt mobile, and using the 12-volt mobile both as a base station and as a high-power mobile. Back to net.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that addition there, Mark. Hey, like I said, there are benefits to both. I know me personally, I started out with the cheap Bofang HT, which I wish I never would have done. I know a lot of people highly recommend them for a first radio. I personally recommend at least getting the FT70 or something similar as a first radio. They're easy to program, and if you're getting into something, spending the $115 to $130, depending on if they're on sale or not, for a good HT is definitely the way to go. I tell a lot of people that ask me when they say they're going to be spending a lot of time in the backcountry to definitely look at getting something with APRS, which a lot of times you can find the mobile radios cheaper than an HT with APRS. I know I've used APRS in the mountains a lot where you can't reach repeaters, but APRS still works perfectly fine. This is KA6ETE, net control for this evening's TechNet. Anyone else have any recommendations or comments on a first-time radio for a new ham?
N0 EMP.
EMP, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to reinforce your comment. I've watched a lot of people come into the hobby and buy different equipment. I myself actually only got licensed about 5 years ago, and although I never went the Bofang route, I've seen people that went cheap to start with and ended up buying a more expensive radio afterwards anyway. So it's better just to buy the more expensive radio, I think. That's true in a lot of areas, not just ham radio, but a lot of things where starting off cheap, whether you're a home mechanic or a hobbyist of some sort, starting off cheap can be more expensive in the long run. As far as mobile versus HT, it really depends, I think, on
what your lifestyle is and what you're going to be doing with the hobby. If you're a hiker and you have someone else in the family that's also a ham, and you're going to be out in the woods together but separate on the trail, not shoulder to shoulder, you're going to be wandering off into different areas, a couple HTs is good. If you're a daily commuter that never leaves paved roads and you like talking on the way to and from work, then of course you want a mobile there. But Mark's right, a 50-watt mobile dual band is good. Yaesu FT60s are what I use. The 70s are also good. Know how to program them by hand. So if you're out somewhere and you have to punch in some new repeater that you need to use because your Jeep got stuck, know how to do that without the manual and 0 EMP.
Thanks for that, Greg. Yeah, definitely. And to add on to your comment, learning to program the radio manually without a computer is essential in my opinion. Like I always tell people, if you get the program with the radio before you even plug it into a computer, program the first 5 repeaters by hand, learn how to do that, and then do the rest with the computer program. There is no replacement for being able to program your radio in the field when all you have is the radio. Anyone else have any comments or questions for the net? Please call now.
K1 DEG.
DEG Mike, go ahead.
This particular spot, am I hitting the repeater good? Net control.
Yeah, you're completely audible. You're a little bit of static in the background, but not bad.
Alright, that's fine. Just using a rubber ducky in the end. Just wanted to make sure I was being heard. My opinion is to do your research before you spend a chunk of money. You're talking about the ham radios. They are not cheap. I'm using a Kenwood. I use all Kenwood, but I have my original Baofeng that I had a year before I got my license. Learn how to control it, learn how to use it. Don't key up if you don't have your license, but understand how to do that. K1 DEG.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Research on what you're going to buy, talk to people that use the radios, and see what's going to fit you best before making the purchase. I mean, yeah, you can, if you buy something and don't like it, you can generally sell it close to what you paid for it, if not what you paid for it, but it's always something to consider. Anyone else have any additional comments or additional questions for the net? Call now.
MIC.
W2MIC, go ahead.
Well, I am a champion of the start small, work your way upward. Maybe you hate the hobby and you're sorry you did this. The Baofeng route plus a wonderful little Bluetooth device called a Mobilink lets you transform a Baofeng or any other handheld into an APRS capable radio with the APRS Droid app on your Android phone and the Mobilink device, which is in fact a TNC, a terminal node controller, that attaches to the radio and communicates with your Android smartphone via Bluetooth. Similarly, the Mobilink device will, with the appropriate adapter cable, convert any other radio into an APRS radio. So if you have a dual-sided, a two-side, 2 VFO mobile radio, you can hook a Moby link to it and have APRS running on one side and regular old FM running on the other. I started small. I started with the Yaesu FT50 just because the Baofengs didn't exist back then. One of the great advantages to the slightly more expensive handheld is the FT50 and the FT60 have 1,000 memories, whereas the Baofengs have, I think it's approximately 100. That's a big difference because with 1,000 memories I can keep every repeater in the state in my handheld radio, as well as aircraft frequencies, water bomber, fire command, railroads, EMS, sheriffs, you name it, and monitor pretty much anything. So the handheld radio becomes a very viable scanner, which the less expensive handhelds that don't have a lot of memories won't do. Back to Ned.
Thanks for that, and I definitely agree. Having the memory capability on a radio is a benefit, and to add to the memory on the Baofeng, the UV5R, and the BF8, I think every Baofeng HT is 127 memory channels capable, and that's combined between both A and B bands on them. They're tied together, so you get 127 channels. The Yaesus and even the Kenwoods are all generally 1,000 channel capability. Then you get into the DMR, and some of those have significantly more, but that's a whole different topic. This is KA6ETE, net control for this evening's NCARC TechNet. Have anyone else want to add their 2 cents to the topic or have a question for the net? Please call.
You have a comment?
Station that just tried calling, I think it might have been Ben. You try again.
Try a different radio this time.
Yeah, that radio was coming through, but you had an echo. I don't know if your other one was still turned up or not. But go ahead.
Okay, turned off the other radio. Just wanted to make a comment about these Baofengs. They're really, really slow scanners. So if you're planning to use a scanner, it's probably not a good idea. This is AE0CF TechNet.
Yeah, I've seen that where when you hit the scan, they do scan a lot slower than some of the other radios, but I think it comes down to personal preference. I know for me, I started out with the Baofeng. My first radio was the UV5R and then the BF8, the 8-watt version, and bought the first one. Couldn't get out very well when I was up in the mountains under the repeaters, and then figured out, get the 8-watt one. It has more power, and it had the same results. So I upgraded to a mobile, and then the good HT. My first good HT, other than the Baofeng, was the Yaesu, the FT2 with the APRS and everything. It does get expensive, but I actually prefer the more expensive ones, and right now I have a few radios I let when someone gets their license and they want to decide on a radio and see what they like. I've been loaning a couple of my HTs out right now. Over the past few years, I've collected a good selection of HT radios. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
MIC.
Mark, go ahead.
Well, back to the original topic of first radio. If you want to go get a mobile as your first and primary radio and move it back and forth between the car and your base station, that's very viable. I encourage you to look into cross-band repeat mobile radios. They have two VFOs, and with a handheld, you can talk into the radio, into the mobile, on one band, let us say VHF, and the radio will retransmit your transmission from your handheld out of the mobile on the other band, let us say to a repeater. So if you can park your vehicle with its good antenna up on top of a ridge and you're down in the ravine with your handheld, even though the rock in the ravine shields you from being able to use the repeater directly, you can talk with your low-power handheld to your crossband repeat mobile in your vehicle to the repeater, and the repeater can then talk back to your crossband repeater in the other direction and talk to your handheld with you down in the ravine. Even though you and the repeater can't communicate directly, you can communicate indirectly. I consider this a really important feature if one is buying a mobile radio. Back to Nat.
Yes, definitely. Crossband repeater in your mobile radio is a definite bonus and something that definitely needs to be considered. I know all of my mobile radios, with the exception of my mobile HF, all are crossband repeat. I've run both the Yaesu and the Kenwood. I have the FTM 400s, FT80 900, and the Kenwood D710. But yeah, I mean, there is no replacement for crossband. I use it quite often when I'm out in the mountains and get out to go for a hike or something. I'll turn the crossband on in my truck and use my HT to reach any repeater I want. One thing I've been trying to learn with the Kenwood is you can change the crossband repeater frequency from the HT while you're... Anyone have anything to add? Please call now.
ARQ.
Station, I believe it was ARQ. Go ahead.
Yes, this is KA0ARQ. And all the radios are fine, but if you don't have a good antenna, and if you're going to be in the mountains, I was initially told a quarter wave mag mount, so you don't have to bore a hole in your roof of your car. A lot of people don't like that. And then I went to a bike touring contest deal in Leadville, Vale area, which is a lot of mountains there, and they required a 5/8 wave, and I found an MFJ at HRO mag mount that was 6 dB gain that gets out real well. And so that's, I personally just bore holes in my car, but a lot of people don't like that. So if you're going to go a cheaper route, then go a mag mount. Maybe a quarter wave would be better and it's cheaper.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. My personal preference is 5/8 wave antenna. I've always had better luck with them, especially in the mountains. Tend to get out better. Definitely a mag mount is the way to go if you don't want to drill holes in your vehicle. If you have a metal roof that it will stick to. Some people when they go on the mountains, even with some of the newer vehicles with aluminum bodies, they can't really use a mag mount antenna on it. Another option that I've seen a lot of people use is the lip mount or the trunk lid mount for the lip, so you can put them on the hood, on a trunk, on a tailgate, on a bedside, anything that's not aluminum. That way you're still not drilling holes, and it's not going to leave any permanent marks unless you really hit something hard with it or torque them down really tight. Then you might scratch the paint a little bit underneath the set screws, but other than that, they work good from my experience.
One DEG.
DEG, Flyville Mike, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to see, hopefully I'm hitting the repeater good. I ain't moved the antenna yet, but, or you could go, the beam route, backpack beam. You can make one. There's many different ideas, plans, theories, and thoughts what they could do, but it's all in what you want. Me personally, if I'm going four-wheeling, I don't want to have to just rely on the antenna that's on the vehicle. It would be nice to have one in the vehicle, and that way if that one malfunctions, gets broke, hit by a limb, whatever, I can go out and use the radio still with good dB gain antenna.
Yeah, four-wheeling brings a whole different aspect to it. You definitely always want to have a spare antenna. And I go out on some of the back roads and that, not necessarily four-wheeling, but get a lot of low-hanging branches to where you're always hitting the antenna, and you always risk breaking the antenna off or knocking it over and pulling the coax apart. I always carry a spare antenna, or at least stuff to make repairs, depending on what it is. But definitely a good thing there. A lot of options for new hams, like you mentioned earlier. Research on what your use is going to be for and what you're looking to get out of it. I mean, if you can afford the mobile, go mobile route. If you can't afford the mobile, then spend money on a good antenna setup for your vehicle. If you're only dealing with 5 watts, you want something the antenna that's going to enhance that and have a good dB gain on it to reach the repeaters. Definitely a lot of different factors to figure in, but it can be done with just about anything. KA6ETE, net control for this evening's TechNet. Have any other comments or questions? Call now.
CK.
The other Mike from Windsor, go ahead.
Yes, KE0LCK. As we were talking, I was wondering, I was counting up in my collection how many HTs I have right now, having sold and donated and whatever, and I'm up to 4. And I was wondering, how many people have at least 4 or more?
I do, MIC. K1D has more than we can count around the house.
Our ASP has more than 4.
N0EMP, I have one Yaesu FT60, and when my wife got licensed, we got a second Yaesu FT60, N0EMP.
It sounds like the overwhelming majority have more than 4. Myself, I can't count them on both hands.
You got to stuff them in your EMP can just in case the nuke goes off, and you have at least something that'll be working when it's done. So the other question that came to my mind, and I know you guys have a couple of them. How many handhelds cost over $200 that you personally own right now?
One DEG can say something real quick.
DEG, go ahead.
I happen to have one that costs, what, $600 maybe? This is the THD74. But the way I got this one was making deals. My brother has many Baofengs and quite a few Yaesus. I think 2 K1DEG.
W0ASP. I only have one. It's also a Kenwood THD72A, and it's actually not my favorite radio. My favorite radio was really the TYT UV8000. It's about $120 or so, and it's my go-to and by far my favorite radio. The Baofengs are expendable.
I definitely agree with the Baofengs are expendable radios. I know I have quite a few that are over the $200 mark. But I mean, like Terry, my go-to radio that I always grab is either my FT70 or I have the Anytone, the 878 DMR radio. Both of them are my go-to radios, and I have the FT2s and FT1. I'm getting ready to go buy the Kenwood, the D74.
Well, supposedly, according to Mark, it's the last HT you'll ever own. Crickets.
Yeah, I've heard a few people say that. I know my reasoning behind buying the D74 is, I was mentioning earlier with the crossband repeater on the D710, the GA, in order to change frequencies on the crossband repeater using DTMF, you have to use a Kenwood HT, and that's the D74 is supposed to be set up to do that. Any other questions or comments or additions for this evening's TechNet?
MIC.
MIC, go ahead.
I want to issue a correction there. You've been deceived by Kenwood's duplicitous marketing. Any radio that generates DTMF tones can control a 71 or a D710. Talk to our buddy W0DDZ, who has been using an FT60R and its DTMF tones to control his, Kenwood 71 into and out of crossband repeat. Kenwood says only Kenwood radios do this. Hogwash. Now, you still want a D74, don't get me wrong. I'm talking to you on one right now. But it is not true when Kenwood says only Kenwood radios can do this, or you must use a Kenwood radio. Hogwash. Baofengs work just fine for that purpose.
Yeah, thanks for confirming that. Like you said, it was something that I read on Kenwood. I've just been reading on it and haven't really gotten too far into the research on it. I've been contemplating getting the D74 for a while. Might go still buy it just to play with it and learn it. I have the habit of doing that, and then need to start getting rid of some of the HTs that I do have to buy more. But yeah, definitely, thanks for that, and I definitely will talk to Dave about that, see how he gets it done. Any other questions or comments?
There ASP.
Terry, go ahead.
Comment or a question on mobile antennas. In particular, I have some of the Larson 270 models, and I was told they were pretty good for 2 meters and 70 centimeters, and they are. No complaints there. But I was actually trying to use them for monitoring radio interference at much lower frequencies, like a AM broadcast, and they did not work at all. And then I discovered that with the Larson 270, the whip, the antenna element, is not connected to the center conductor of the NMO mount. The shell is connected to the center conductor of the NMO mount, and the conductor is actually connected to what is essentially the ground of the shield of the coax cable. Does anybody have any similar experience and or with that model or any other similar antenna?
I do not have any experience or knowledge of that. Maybe anyone else have anything? Maybe Mark or Greg might know something about that.
MIC, I do not. This is the first I've ever heard of such a thing. Totally bizarre, Terry.
This is what I thought, too, that it was, in fact, totally bizarre.
Sounds like some research to see what the thinking is behind that. It doesn't seem like it would work very well being set up that way, at least in my thought process.
A0 PRB.
PRB, Phil, go ahead.
It begs the question, does it translate backwards?
Phil, what do you mean does it transmit backwards? W0ASP.
Just a joke. Just a joke. There was one other setup that wasn't mentioned earlier as I was listening for people just starting out. And the setup would be to have a mobile or an HT with a pigtail and then a mag mount so that you can use the HT from inside the vehicle and use your mag mount antenna. I did that for a little while until I found which mobile I wanted to purchase, and it worked really well. I didn't have any problems with it whatsoever. So that's an inexpensive way to go for those starting out and can't afford a mobile right away. A lot of people have been trying to transmit from inside their vehicle with the HT and their rubber duck, and they just don't realize they're almost transmitting in a Faraday cage, and so they can't get out very well. And I don't think anybody's really told them that it's not a good way to go. It's K0 PRB.
MIC.
MIC, go ahead.
I want to reinforce what Phil says. I know several new hams who nearly gave up the hobby because they had such a terrible time using their handheld and their rubber duck from inside their vehicle. As Phil says, that's a Faraday cage, not a perfect one. And in several cases, I just grabbed people by the scruff of the neck and said, here, borrow this antenna and this mag mount. Hook your radio up. Here's the adapter. Try that. Presto boom, everything worked. Using a handheld inside a car just is not a winning solution. Back to net.
Yeah, definitely. You need an external antenna. Only time I've had an internal rubber duck style antenna work on an HT inside a vehicle when it was in my Jeep when the doors and top were off of the vehicle. But then I don't have anything around me. Any other questions or comments for the net? Call now.
K0EV.
K0EV, go ahead.
I second that with a HT with a pigtail. I did that for years, and that was my mobile. And I highly recommend a speaker mic so that you can just set the HT into a holder like your cell phone or in the cup holders or whatever. And I even then tacked on an amplifier after it, and that was my mobile rig for a long time.
MIC, mine too.
Yeah, definitely. I know you can. HT's nice. Extra power's nice too. I know you can pick up some. I've seen a few of the dual band 2 meter, 70 centimeter, 25 watt, 40 watt amplifiers, fairly inexpensive, which would definitely help out and when you're not close to repeaters or out in the mountains or backcountry. It's a definite possibility for another option. That way you can still take the HT out and use it around town, around your house when you're out walking, and hook it up in the car with the pigtail for the external antenna. I mean, that's a definite with any radio in a vehicle. This is K6ETE, net control for this evening's Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club TechNet. We have any other questions, comments, or additions for this evening's net? Please call now.
W8 CRV, a weight check-in and a question.
CRV, go ahead.
Yeah, back to the topic of the crossband repeat. Are there, when selecting frequencies to do that, are there limitations of which ones you can use and which ones you should not use, since you are essentially setting up a repeater?
MIC.
Mark, go ahead.
Several answers to that. The primary restriction you have to deal with is one side of the radio has to be VHF and one has to be UHF. The crossband repeat really does mean crossband. Other than that, no. Just don't put your temporary crossband repeater on any allocated pair. Pairs are coordinated. You can go look at I gotta think of the name. No, I've got it bookmarked. The people who coordinate the Colorado frequencies. And generally what you do is you set up the repeater side of the radio. We'll say, for example, using this repeater, the 447.275, you would set up one side of your crossband repeater to talk to and listen to this repeater on UHF. And then your handheld, you would set up someplace in the VHF band, not on a repeater and not on any allocated or coordinated frequency, and you're fine.
CRV, thanks for the insight.
definitely agree with Mark there, and to add to that, what I always tell people whenever you're setting up a crossband repeater, on your simplex side of it that you're going to be using for your HT, a transmit and incidentally be transmitting on your simplex frequency and get into the repeater unknowingly. And then I always set my crossband repeater up with a transmit and receive tone, and then on my HT I only set the transmit tone. That way if there is someone on the simplex side of it talking in a group or something, I can hear them on my HT, but they are not going to be able to go through the crossband repeater onto the repeater itself.
My C? Ooh, that is a really good idea. I had not thought of that, and I will do that from now on.
Yeah, PRB.
PRB, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, what you were just describing is what I've been doing here at the house. Every now and then I put in a crossband repeat to hit the repeater, and so that I can use my HT out of the basement, and it works just fine, and put in the PL tones. I usually only do it the one way, so that my transmit tone is what keys the crossband repeater, and that works pretty good. But people need to also understand that that your voice is still going out there. So even though you've got a PL tone that'll trigger your repeater, anybody listening simplex or on that frequency can still hear you talking. They just can't hear the other side. So it can confuse some people in a lot of circumstances, but seldom is anybody, unless they're scanning, going to be listening to you or whatever. And the other thing is, do not, which I did in the beginning, do not forget to turn off your crossband repeat when you're finished. I left mine on all night one time, and I was chastised the next day by another ham saying, you need to remember to turn that off. So, yeah, I learned that the hard way. So it's good that everybody should understand that.
Yes, definitely always remember to turn it off when you're done. I know I use it at home sometimes depending on what I'm doing and which repeater I got to use. I know where my house is, like on for the Buckhorn repeater for Skywarn and other stuff, my HT has trouble hitting that repeater for some reason, to where I'll go into the jack or out in my truck and turn my crossband repeater on so I can use my HT around the house and not have to be tied to one location depending on what's going on. But it's a definite benefit, and definitely want to remember to turn it off, especially if you have it turned on in your vehicle and it is not running, because it will drain your battery by morning. We have any other questions, comments, or additions for this evening's TechNet?
KE0 Uniform Foxtrot Juliet, late check-in.
There's a KE0 UFJ.
Affirmative.
Hey, guy in there for a late check-in. Did you have any questions or comments, or just checking in late?
Checking in late, just happy to hear you guys are here.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you here. This is KA6 ETE, net control for this evening's TechNet. we have any other questions or comments for the net before we close?
Kilo 0 Alpha Romeo Delta, Ann in Fort Collins with a late check-in, and sad that I'm late because it sounds like there were some good discussions tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the late check-in there, Ann. There was some good discussion this evening, and they are recorded on the YouTube channel, so you can always go back and review the recording on YouTube. You're going to go through it and listen to what was discussed. Any other late check-ins or comments for the net? Please call now.
N5GRY, late check-in. Yeah, it was a good session.
Thank you for that. In the late check-in. One last round. Any other late check-ins or questions? Call now.
Kilo Echo 0, Uniform Juliet Whiskey, late check-in.
UJW, got you on the late check-in. Any more?
CF with a question.
Ben, go ahead with your question.
For those who use their HTs in a car with an external antenna on top of their car, I imagine that unscrewing the SMA or PL259 or 239s are kind of annoying. Do most people switch over and use over BNC or something like that instead?
Yes.
I cut off the connector and put on a BNC, W0ASP.
That would mean that HTs that have SMAs on them you need to use adapter, and you have to use another adapter or use different antenna. Is AE0CF BACnet?
Yeah, Terry, you doubled at the beginning right there with Ben. I don't know if you want to repeat it so you can hear your response.
W0ASP. Yeah, I just cut off the PL239 and a BNC, and then use a BNC to SMA adapter.
Yeah, definitely that'd be the way to go. Put the BNC adapter right directly on the coax for the external, and then use the adapter on the HT. That way you can even use it with all your different HTs if you have more than one, or other radios. Any other additional comments or questions? Call now. And this is Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, net control for this evening's Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club TechNet. I'd like to thank everyone for checking in this evening and adding to the discussion and topic. As a reminder, Wednesday evening is the Club Net on this repeater at 6:30 with early check-in starting at 6 p.m. I'll look forward to hearing from you again next week on Monday evening at 6 p.m. for the TechNet. This was Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo 73. Have a good evening, everyone. The repeater is now open for general use.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.